Zimbabwe is a game-changing, first-of-a-kind innovation.
Tesla just got blindsided. A revolutionary car has emerged, not from the United States, not from China, but from Africa. And here is the shocking part. It never needs charging. This is not just another electric vehicle. It is a self-powered machine that generates its own energy as it moves. No fuel, no charging stations, just unlimited motion. How does this work? Could Africa's breakthrough rewrite the rules of global transportation? And more importantly, can Tesla survive this? Stay with me, because this is the kind of technology that could change the world forever. Let's break it down. The invention that changes everything, in an unexpected twist that has sent shockwaves through the automotive and energy industries. An inventor in Africa has developed a self-powered car, a vehicle that does not require fuel, charging stations, or even an external power source. The announcement alone was enough to stir disbelief, but when the first working prototype was demonstrated in Zimbabwe, engineers and industry leaders found themselves scrambling for answers. Unlike traditional electric vehicles, which rely on large lithium-ion battery packs and require hours of charging, this car reportedly generates its own power while driving. The implications of such an invention are staggering. If true, it could mark the beginning of a new era, one in which transportation is no longer tied to the price of oil, the instability of the electric grid, or the availability of charging stations. Automakers have spent decades refining combustion engines and improving electric vehicle technology, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into batteries, hydrogen fuel cells, and alternative fuels. Yet this invention, developed outside of major tech hubs, threatens to make all of that obsolete. With no need for traditional fuel sources, the entire automotive and energy sectors could be turned upside down. The world is watching closely, but one question remains. Who is the man behind this innovation, and how did he succeed where others failed? The genius behind this breakthrough is not a billionaire entrepreneur or a corporate-backed scientist. He is a self-taught inventor whose journey is as incredible as his technology. In an unexpected twist that has sent shockwaves through the automotive and energy industries, an inventor in Africa has developed a self-powered car, a vehicle that does not require fuel, charging stations, or even an external power source. The announcement alone was enough to stir disbelief, but when the first working prototype was demonstrated in Zimbabwe, engineers and industry leaders found themselves scrambling for answers. Unlike traditional electric vehicles, which rely on large lithium-ion battery packs and require hours of charging, this car reportedly generates its own power while driving. The implications of such an invention are staggering. If true, it could mark the beginning of a new era, one in which transportation is no longer tied to the price of oil, the instability of the electric grid, or the availability of charging stations. Automakers have spent decades refining combustion engines and improving electric vehicle technology, pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into batteries, hydrogen fuel cells, and alternative fuels. Yet this invention, developed outside of major tech hubs, threatens to make all of that obsolete. With no need for traditional fuel sources, the entire automotive and energy sectors could be turned upside down. The world is watching closely, but one question remains. Who is the man behind this innovation, and how did he succeed where others failed? The genius behind this breakthrough is not a billionaire entrepreneur or a corporate-backed scientist. He is a self-taught inventor whose journey is as incredible as his technology. The mind behind the machine, Maxwell Chikumbutso, is not the kind of name you would expect to be at the forefront of a global energy revolution. Unlike Elon Musk or Henry Ford, he did not have the backing of investors, a team of world-class engineers, or the resources of a multinational corporation. Instead, his story begins in Zimbabwe, a country not traditionally associated with high-tech breakthroughs. Born into modest circumstances, Maxwell grew up with an intense curiosity about how things worked. From an early age, he displayed an exceptional ability to understand electrical and mechanical systems without formal training. Despite financial hardships that forced him to drop out of high school, his passion for innovation never faded. Unlike most inventors, Maxwell did not have access to research labs or university programs. Instead, he learned by experimenting with electronics in his own home, building small-scale prototypes, and teaching himself advanced engineering principles. Over time, he began working on projects that most people considered impossible, devices that could generate energy from radio waves. Maxwell's breakthrough came when he discovered a way to capture and convert radio frequencies into usable electricity. While energy harvesting from radio waves has been explored by researchers in the past, the amount of power extracted was always too small to be practical. But Maxwell claimed to have found a way to amplify this energy, making it capable of powering large-scale devices, including an entire automobile. His journey was not easy. Without the credibility of an engineering degree or corporate backing, he faced relentless skepticism. Many experts dismissed his ideas outright, believing that his claims violated the known laws of physics. Investors hesitated to support him, wary of the risks associated with funding an unproven inventor. Yet Maxwell persevered. In secret, he built his first self-powered prototype, demonstrating that his technology could indeed generate continuous energy. As word of his invention spread, he began receiving attention from investors, government officials, and industry insiders. And then came the moment that changed everything, a public demonstration that would silence even his harshest critics. But how does this self-powered technology actually work? And why do some experts believe it could rewrite the rules of energy itself? The science behind the impossible. At first glance, the idea of a self-powered car seems to defy logic. According to conventional science, a vehicle must get energy from somewhere, either through combustion, battery storage, or an external power source like hydrogen fuel. So how can a car generate its own power while in motion? The secret lies in radio frequency energy harvesting, a process that captures electromagnetic waves from the environment and converts them into usable electricity. This concept is not entirely new. Wireless charging, for example, uses a similar principle to power smartphones. However, the challenge has always been scale. Until now, no one had figured out how to extract enough energy from these frequencies to power something as large as a vehicle. Maxwell's invention, which he calls microsonic energy, reportedly does exactly that. By using specialized antennas and an advanced conversion system, his car is said to continuously extract energy from surrounding radio waves, generating a stable and renewable power source. This eliminates the need for external charging or refueling, making the vehicle completely independent from traditional energy infrastructure. The implications of this discovery extend far beyond transportation. If radio frequency energy can be harnessed on a large scale, it could mean the end of power grids, the decline of fossil fuel dependency, and the rise of a new era of decentralized energy. Imagine a world where homes, factories, and entire cities could generate their own power without coal plants, solar farms, or nuclear reactors. Of course, such a radical claim has drawn intense scrutiny. Many experts argue that the laws of thermodynamics make this level of energy conversion impossible. Some believe that the technology must rely on an undisclosed external source, or that Maxwell's demonstrations involve hidden batteries or energy storage systems. But skepticism alone is not enough to disprove an invention, and when Maxwell's vehicle was put to the test in front of live audiences, even his doubters were left speechless. If this technology is real, it is only a matter of time before the world reacts. And the first response has been a mix of disbelief, excitement, and fear. The world reacts. Skepticism and shock. The announcement of a self-powered car triggered an immediate global response. Some called it the greatest energy breakthrough in modern history, while others dismissed it as an elaborate hoax. Scientists, automakers, and investors rushed to learn more, demanding real-world proof of the vehicle's capabilities. The first public demonstration was met with widespread disbelief. Journalists and engineers who attended watched in shock as the vehicle powered itself without plugging into any external source. As Maxwell explained his invention, it became clear that this was not just about a car. It was about an entirely new way of thinking about energy. Social media exploded with debates. Some praised the invention as the future of sustainable energy, while others warned that powerful industries, from oil companies to battery manufacturers, would do everything in their power to suppress it. Investors saw an opportunity, but major automakers remained silent, unsure of how to respond to a technology that could make their electric vehicle strategies obsolete. Governments also took notice. If Maxwell's technology was real, it could shift global energy power away from traditional suppliers. Countries that rely on oil exports, such as Saudi Arabia and Russia, could face devastating economic consequences. Meanwhile, nations with little access to energy, especially in Africa, could become self-sufficient overnight. The most pressing question remains: is this technology scalable? If so, the entire world order of energy and transportation is about to change. But if this technology is real, what does it mean for Tesla, the oil industry, and global trade? The disruption has only just begun. How this innovation threatens Tesla and Big Auto. For over a decade, Tesla has been the poster child of the electric vehicle revolution, pushing the world toward battery-powered transportation. The company, alongside major automakers like General Motors and Toyota, has spent billions of dollars refining lithium-ion battery technology, expanding charging infrastructure, and convincing consumers that electric vehicles are the future. But now, all of that investment is at risk. The emergence of a self-powered car, one that does not require charging stations or lithium batteries, poses an existential threat to the very foundation of the electric vehicle industry. For Tesla, whose business model revolves around battery production and its supercharger network, the implications are devastating. If drivers no longer need to stop and charge their vehicles, Tesla's vast network of charging stations, which was meant to be its long-term competitive edge, becomes irrelevant. The company would lose one of its key revenue streams, and its massive gigafactories, built specifically to produce lithium batteries, could become obsolete. The problem is not exclusive to Tesla. General Motors, Toyota, Ford, and Volkswagen have collectively pledged hundreds of billions of dollars to transition their fleets to electric vehicles, investing heavily in battery technology and charging solutions. If self-powered vehicles become viable, these automakers face the prospect of seeing years of research and development wasted. It is not just about lost investments. It is about survival in an industry that has already shifted gears toward a battery-powered future. Even automakers that have resisted the electric vehicle movement, such as those still committed to gasoline and hybrid engines, are at risk. If self-powered technology truly eliminates the need for external charging or fuel, it could disrupt every part of the market, rendering both gasoline and battery-powered cars outdated at the same time. While automakers scramble to protect their investments, another powerful industry faces an even greater crisis: energy. The battery and oil industry's worst nightmare. For years, two industries have controlled global transportation: oil and batteries. The oil industry has dominated the market for over a century, supplying gasoline and diesel to fuel the world's cars, trucks, and planes. Meanwhile, the rise of electric vehicles has given birth to another empire, one built around lithium batteries, controlled by a handful of major players, primarily in China. Now, both industries are facing a crisis that could change everything. If self-powered vehicles eliminate the need for charging or refueling, the demand for both gasoline and lithium batteries could collapse. This would be catastrophic for oil companies, which have already been fighting to remain relevant in a world increasingly leaning toward renewable energy. Major oil corporations like ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Shell have struggled to adapt to the rise of electric vehicles. But they at least counted on the transition being gradual. A sudden technological leap that removes the need for energy refueling altogether would throw them into uncharted territory. For gas stations, the impact would be immediate. Across the world, gas stations serve as essential infrastructure, not just for fuel, but for retail and convenience shopping. If cars no longer need to stop for gas, millions of stations could shut down, sending shockwaves through local economies. The businesses that rely on traffic from fuel stops, restaurants, convenience stores, and travel plazas would feel the effects too. On the other hand, the battery industry faces its own crisis. Lithium-ion batteries are at the core of nearly every modern electric vehicle, and China has positioned itself as the dominant force in battery production. Companies like CATL and BYD supply the world's automakers with the energy storage they need, and billions of dollars have been poured into mining operations to extract lithium, cobalt, and nickel. If a new energy source makes lithium batteries unnecessary, this entire supply chain, one that has taken decades to build, could crumble overnight. This is not just about car batteries. The impact would extend to consumer electronics, power grids, and industrial storage systems. If energy could be harvested directly from the environment in real time, without the need for massive batteries, it would disrupt everything from smartphones to renewable energy storage solutions. The result? Some of the world's most powerful industries would be forced to rethink their business models from the ground up. As corporations brace for impact, another major force enters the equation: governments. Will world leaders embrace this technology, or will they try to suppress it? Governments scramble to respond. Whenever a disruptive technology emerges, governments have a choice: regulate it, embrace it, or attempt to suppress it. The self-powered car presents a challenge unlike any other, one that forces policymakers to rethink energy policies, infrastructure, and global trade relationships. The biggest concern for many countries is control. Energy is not just about business, it is about power. Nations that control oil, gas, and lithium supplies hold enormous leverage over global markets. If a self-sustaining energy source makes those resources less valuable, it could shift the balance of power on a massive scale. China, for example, has built its dominance in electric vehicles by controlling lithium battery production. If this technology eliminates the need for lithium, China could lose one of its most significant economic advantages. The United States, on the other hand, has spent years trying to reduce dependence on foreign oil and has heavily invested in electric vehicle infrastructure. If self-powered cars become the norm, years of policymaking could become irrelevant. There is also the question of tax revenue. Governments collect massive amounts of money from gasoline sales, vehicle registration fees, and energy tariffs. If cars no longer need gasoline or charging stations, tax revenues could plummet, forcing leaders to find new ways to generate income. Some countries might try to introduce new regulations or licensing fees to maintain control over the automotive and energy sectors. Then comes the question of security. Energy independence on an individual level sounds promising, but it also means governments would have less oversight over how energy is produced and consumed. In nations where energy security is a major concern, regulators might attempt to slow down or restrict the development of self-powered technology, fearing that it could destabilize existing energy infrastructures. At the same time, some governments might see this as an opportunity, a way to lead the next energy revolution. Countries struggling with energy shortages, particularly in Africa and parts of Asia, could embrace the technology as a way to leapfrog traditional energy dependencies. If self-powered vehicles and devices become widely accessible, they could provide power to millions of people who have never had reliable electricity before. While corporations and policymakers struggle to react, investors see a golden opportunity. The race to capitalize on this breakthrough has already begun. The race to control the patent. The unveiling of self-powered vehicle technology has sparked a frenzied race to claim ownership. From tech giants and auto manufacturers to energy conglomerates and government agencies, everyone sees the potential of this discovery. If this technology can be commercialized, it will be worth trillions. The ability to generate continuous energy without external charging or fuel dependency would upend the global economy, and whoever controls it will hold one of the most valuable assets of the 21st century. But securing a patent for something this revolutionary is proving to be a battle of its own. Maxwell Chikumbutso, the inventor behind the breakthrough, has struggled to get legal recognition for his creation. Patent offices have rejected multiple applications, often citing concerns that the technology defies established laws of physics. Some skeptics believe these rejections are rooted in bureaucracy and outdated scientific assumptions, while others suspect corporate interference. The world has seen this pattern before, when oil and energy industries have used their influence to suppress disruptive innovations that could threaten their dominance. Despite these challenges, the fight for control continues. Major corporations have begun exploring alternative ways to gain access to the technology. Some are offering Chikumbutso partnerships and lucrative contracts in exchange for exclusive rights, while others are trying to find loopholes that would allow them to develop their own versions. Governments are also entering the race. African nations see this as a potential economic game changer, while the United States and European nations are eager to prevent China from monopolizing it. While the battle over patents rages on, Africa is stepping into the spotlight in a way no one expected. Africa's role in the future of energy. The significance of this breakthrough goes beyond scientific achievement. Africa is one of the fastest growing regions in the world, both in population and economic potential. However, energy infrastructure has always been a challenge. Many African nations still struggle with unreliable power grids, frequent blackouts, and high energy costs. A decentralized energy solution, one that does not rely on traditional infrastructure, could provide power to remote communities, improve industrial productivity, and accelerate economic growth. African governments are now actively exploring ways to support and scale this innovation. Some leaders are proposing government-backed research initiatives to further develop the technology, while others are looking at public-private partnerships to ensure that it remains under African ownership. If successfully implemented, this could transform Africa into a global leader in renewable energy. There is also a growing movement among African entrepreneurs and investors to keep this technology within the continent. Historically, groundbreaking innovations from Africa have been quickly acquired by Western or Asian companies, often stripping local communities of their economic benefits. But this time, there is a push to ensure that Africa reaps the full rewards of its own technological breakthroughs. The challenge, however, lies in manufacturing capacity. Africa has the talent and the ideas, but scaling production to a global level will require significant investment. If African nations can build the infrastructure to support large-scale production, they could not only revolutionize their own economies, but also shift the balance of power in the global energy market. Investors are watching the situation unfold with both excitement and fear as the future of transportation and energy collides with Wall Street. The stock market shakes. The unveiling of self-powered vehicle technology has sent shockwaves through the stock market. Investors are scrambling to determine whether this is the beginning of a new trillion-dollar industry or a threat to existing giants. The stakes could not be higher. Entire industries could collapse or skyrocket based on how this innovation plays out. Companies that have spent billions on battery production, like Tesla, Panasonic, and BYD, are facing growing uncertainty. If self-powered cars make lithium-ion batteries obsolete, these firms could lose their market value almost overnight. Meanwhile, oil companies are also on edge. While electric vehicles were once seen as a slow-moving threat to gasoline demand, self-powered cars could accelerate that decline at an unprecedented rate. But while some industries panic, others see massive opportunity. Venture capital firms, tech startups, and energy disruptors are pouring money into research, hoping to get ahead of the curve. Investors who once bet big on Tesla are now looking for the next game-changing company that could dominate the self-powered vehicle market. The unpredictability of this situation is creating both risk and opportunity. Some financial analysts are comparing this moment to the rise of the internet or the invention of the smartphone, when early adopters became billionaires and those who ignored the shift were left behind. But with uncertainty comes resistance. Large corporations, governments, and entrenched interests have every reason to slow down or block this innovation from reaching mass adoption. The battle is no longer just about technology. It is about power, control, and the future of global energy. Beyond the financial battle, the implications of this breakthrough extend into global trade, energy independence, and everyday life. The world is standing at the edge of a revolution, and what happens next will determine the course of history. The technology shift, making trade wars obsolete. For centuries, global trade has revolved around the supply and demand of energy resources. The price of oil, access to lithium, and control over rare earth materials have determined which nations rise and which struggle. But with the emergence of self-generating energy technology, that balance is shifting faster than anyone expected. Artificial intelligence, automation, and decentralized power generation are rewriting the rules of global commerce. Traditionally, industries have relied on massive supply chains that connect factories, energy sources, and markets across multiple continents. However, if vehicles, homes, and even entire industries can generate their own power without relying on an external grid, the traditional trade model could collapse. Imagine a world where a car factory no longer needs imported lithium batteries, or where households no longer depend on power plants controlled by energy corporations. The need for complex logistics, energy transportation, and government-controlled utilities could drastically decline. Supply chains that were once vulnerable to tariffs, trade wars, and political manipulation may become entirely self-sufficient. This shift would weaken the influence of energy-exporting nations, as well as the industries built around fuel dependency. Countries that have relied on oil exports to sustain their economies, such as those in the Middle East and parts of South America, could find themselves in crisis. At the same time, nations that previously lacked energy resources may become independent power hubs, capable of sustaining their own economies without relying on foreign imports. The idea of an energy-independent world may sound promising, but it also raises difficult questions. What happens to workers in traditional energy sectors when fossil fuel demand plummets? How will governments that rely on energy taxation replace that lost revenue? And if tariffs on fuel and electricity become irrelevant, how will nations maintain control over trade policies? While global trade adapts to this seismic shift, the question remains: how will the United States respond to the challenge? Can the United States adapt, or will it fall behind? The United States has long prided itself on being a leader in innovation. However, History has shown that even the most dominant nations can fall behind when they resist technological change. The rise of self-generating energy technology presents both an opportunity and a threat to the U.S. economy, and how the country responds will determine its position in the global energy landscape. While American automakers and energy companies have invested heavily in electric vehicles and renewable energy, they have done so under the assumption that centralized charging stations and power grids will always be necessary. Tesla, Ford, and General Motors have built their strategies around lithium-ion batteries, creating an entire infrastructure that could become obsolete if self-powered vehicles gain widespread adoption. The challenge extends beyond the private sector. U.S. lawmakers are now being forced to reconsider trade policies, industry regulations, and research priorities. Some politicians argue that embracing self-generating energy could provide America with a competitive edge, allowing it to regain dominance over the auto and energy industries. Others worry that shifting away from existing energy infrastructure too quickly could destabilize major corporations, cost thousands of jobs, and trigger economic uncertainty. The American government now faces a critical decision. Should it invest in this new energy technology, or should it attempt to slow down its adoption in order to protect legacy industries? Some officials are already pushing for increased research funding, incentives for American automakers to develop self-powered vehicles, and policies to ensure that the U.S. does not become dependent on foreign innovations. Others, particularly those with close ties to the fossil fuel and battery industries, are lobbying for stricter regulations to limit or delay the rollout of self-generating energy technology. Has Africa just rewritten the future of global energy? Will the United States and China embrace this breakthrough, or will they try to suppress it? And what does this mean for the cars we drive and the energy we rely on? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.